When I was at Stevens Point, I was the only black student who was an American student. I grew up in Beloit. I went to school with persons of predominantly white students, but a number of black students were in there as well, maybe 4%, something like that. I participated in football, wrestling, and track. I managed to letter in all the years that I was there. And so that was a stepping stone for looking for colleges. While I was looking, I found that for education, that Stevens Point was one of the better schools. When I arrived at Stevens Point, sports was an important part of my student life. I felt camaraderie. That's where I felt very comfortable. The sports were something that I looked forward to. I wanted to go into education. I never saw an African American or black teacher when I was coming through the system, and so I didn't have that example. But when I got back to Beloit, I was in need, after those years, I was in need of employment. I went to a number of places for employment, and I actually went back and found out that they had thrown my application away. When I applied for a position with the police in Beloit, the police chief did not want a black officer. It had never happened before that the wife had been summoned to come in and sit through the interview, and my wife was. We found out a few weeks later a new chief was coming in, and so that's when I got the notice that they'd like to talk with me further, and I would become a police officer. I tried to do the best job I could because I knew it would impact those who follow. And so I tried to do everything as close to the book as I could, and do a good job, but also always with the idea of helping the society, helping those persons who I encountered. There are things that are stumbling blocks, and there are things that are stepping stones. And I didn't realize at the time that while I thought it might be a stumbling block, it turned out to be a stepping stone to not only for myself, but also it changed things in the city of Beloit for persons of color. I was first hired as an adjunct instructor at UW-Platteville. And this was, again, another one of those first times for a black person on campus. And I drew quite a bit of attention. Everyone, for some reason, I got into that. Places I went, I drew attention. So it started at about 20 students. I traveled all across the state of Wisconsin, recruiting students to the criminal justice program. I went to talk with the chiefs and sheriffs and directors of programs and try to convince them that gaining an education, as much education as possible, was beneficial. One of the things that helped this program was I created the Career Day, Criminal Justice Career Day, that drew from all over. The first thing I had to do was sell the agencies on internship. I had to convince them of how they would be contributing to the future of law enforcement, of criminal justice, by taking on the students and guiding them, helping them. But some said, well, what do you expect us to do with the females? I'm proud to be able to say that they have exceeded all expectation, and they are in every branch. I can't think of many places that have law enforcement or enforcement or criminal justice responsibilities where our students do not hold a position.